What's up, guys? I thought I had already made this video, but I guess I hadn't. What I'm going to do today, I've got my A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and the Force Awakens Graflex 2.0 variants. And I'm going to go through and just kind of go over all the accuracy mods and some of the kind of differences between them to the best of my knowledge, which should be fairly accurate because I've spent a significant amount of time researching film stills and other things that nobody should waste that much time doing. And so yeah, I figured that kind of with a lot more options coming out into the market for Graflexes, I would almost close the era of the 2.0 by going through all of them and showing off ways that if you do have one and you kind of want to get up to speed with some of the other replicas that are coming out, some things you can do. I know that the ASAP Saberforge has a Graflex variant that's I haven't seen in person, but from pictures doesn't look that accurate. For the money, I don't think it's a good way to go. I think honestly, if you want something you can really duel hard with, the Ultra Sabers would be almost a better bet because they're both not really that accurate. And then the Graflex shop actually just I think within the last day or so announced that they're going to be doing their own variant, which I'm really excited for because it's priced really well. They've got the pre-order price at $150, and I think they said it might go up to around $200 post pre-order, but it is actually based on the flash tube, not Saber build specific. And what I really mean by that is the Graflex 2.0 kit, or it's also known as the Parks 2.0 kit. Park Sabers is, I guess, the one who kind of originally came up with the design for it, and then there's several people and companies that come together and they bulk order them and sell them individually. There was a Parks 1.0 that was based on the actual flash tube, and what I mean by that is where this has kind of a chassis inside specifically for setting it up with electronics and LEDs, and it screws in right here inside, which I'll show you a little later on. But the flash tube variant, actually you would unclamp this and it twists and pulls apart, and it a lot closer resembles what the actual Graflex flash tube looked like and how it operated. So it's funny that they came up with the 2.0 design so that people could install electronics easier, and now everybody wants something that's more of an authentic vintage flash tube style. But there's also more options now for doing installs on those. It's not all kind of custom chassis. So anyway, kind of enough about that. Like I said, I'm hoping that this video is not going to be super duper long, but it probably will be. But I'm going to try and make it interesting. I'm going to try and make it packed full of tons and tons of mods. So if you have a Graflex 2.0 kit and you're kind of wondering what you can do to make it look closer to the film versions, hopefully this will help you out. I feel like for the most part, I've done pretty much everything I can to make these indistinguishable from a actual vintage, at a distance. Obviously, there's several things that you can't do, and that's just the nature of having something that's install ready. So I've got the Force Awakens variant, which has a full install. I've got my Empire Strikes Back, which is kind of gearing up for an install, and then I've got my A New Hope that I don't ever really intend to do an install on. So we're gonna start at the beginning. We're gonna go with the A New Hope variant, and I'm gonna kind of go through and explain some of the modifications and why I've done them. So let's scoot this back here. Let's kick my camera. Okay, so we're gonna start at the bottom and we're gonna work our way up. So on the Graflex 2.0, it has a, hold pommel for sound holes, and so what I have is Sky Wampa. I believe they're on Etsy. They make a Graflex kind of logo replica metal. I almost want to call it a shim, but it's essentially just a little disc that has the Graflex lettering and whatnot on it. So it looks like a very good representation of what the original pommel caps looked like. On the Force Awakens, this would be, they used something similar, but it was just a metal disc to actually cover the logo up. And Wampa sells that. But Sky Wampa sells this engraved one. They have two versions. They have this one that's actually smaller, so you can see it doesn't quite come out flush. And then the one that I have on my Empire Strikes Back will actually come out almost to the grips. So anyway, I use that to give it a little more accuracy down there. I'm using the Wampa accurate D-ring, so it's got a slightly more accurate shape to the mount as well as the D-ring. And if you guys want to bear with me for a second, not that you have a choice, I'm going to get the stock one out. If my parts bin, if I can find it here. Okay, so here it is. So the stock one, you can see, looks very different. Let's see if I can get it right. I guess you can see. Mostly it's not as much the D-ring. I mean, you can see that the D-ring is bigger, but it's the actual shape. So it ends up being where this is positioned just doesn't look right. So I got this one, and of course I used a rivet instead of the screw because everything was riveted on the original props, unless you want to get super technical and talk about like the Skywalker Ranch ESB version. So anyway, so I did that. I've got the seven grips without the notch, obviously per the Empire or A New Hope variant. So those come with the kit, so nothing special there. Although if you wanted to go crazy, I believe there's a 20 degree, I think it was 20 degrees, there was almost a notch filed. So if you wanted to go crazy, you could do that. I actually learned about that after these grips had been on, and I just didn't want to mess with it. I'm using the stock bubble card. From all the research I've done, from talking to people that have bought the Wonka version and the Romans version, they're all the same. They all look pretty close to how they should. I know there's some variation in the actual shape of the bubbles versus the true calculator bubbles, but for the most part, you're not going to find anything better than that, so just don't waste your money. I'm running the Romans Graflex non-chrome, just standard clamp card, or clamp, sorry, because, the A New Hope is the one variant where they didn't cover this logo up. I didn't think it was worth the money on the other 2.0 kits to buy this just to cover it up with tape. So I bought this from Romans. There's some tabs that are actually inside here that just kind of stick down, which is how, like I said earlier, the two pieces slip in and rotate together and hold in place. So you're going to need to grind those down with a Dremel. It's kind of intimidating, especially since this is a $50 clamp. It's kind of an expensive piece to potentially screw up, but truly just use blue painter's tape, use a lot of it, and you can't screw up because all the wear is on the inside. So I mean, trust me when I say it's foolproof to do this mod, and I think if you're going with a New Hope variant, it really just takes it up a level. I mean, it kind of looks off in color, but to me it just makes a huge difference when you pick it up. And I mean, you've got the Graflex logo down here, and you've got it right there. Just looks very cool. So that was from Romans. I've got the KR Sabers tab screw. Now on the stock kit, all the hardware is an Allen head. There's a lot of inconsistencies on what size people say it is, mostly because they just use a really shitty metal and it strips out really easily. So my recommendation, they're all 440, almost all the hardware on this, or all the Allen screws, replace all of it with slotted. It's gonna be closer to accurate, even just that, and then if you wanna go further, you can get something like this, the KR. This is like a $15 screw. It's really expensive, and so, I mean, whether you actually wanna do this or not, it's kind of up to you, but slotted will work better if you're gonna ever take it out. I've got a slotted screw here. Now there's two ways to do the slotted screw above the glass eye, and I'll show you the other version as well. You can either go with a panhead screw that doesn't sit flush like this, and you don't have to modify anything, or you can go with one like this that's got kind of a tapered bottom, and you're gonna have to actually drill out the metal housing So you'll take the inner shell out and you'll drill this out. So basically it requires some modification of the actual hilt itself. So it's kind of your call. Either way, it's not going to look as good as the original prop. So, you know, it's how close do you really want to get. I've got the Glass Eye. So this is the Graflex shop's Glass Eye. This one is their actual dark eye version, but if you have the clear version, which is what I had on this one, you can actually pop it up and paint it. And I'll talk about that a little more when I get to the Force Awakens variant. But either way, I think it's a very worthwhile mod. It makes a huge difference. Another option is Saber Bay, and I believe KR Sabers as well sell one that's, it threads much like, I can't show you because it'll mess up my wiring, but this actually is, there's two versions you get with the 2.0 kits of the red button. There's a thumb screw version, and then there's one that the bottom part that you can kind of see right down there is actually threaded, and it threads, I can kind of show you. So this is what I mean by the thumb screw version versus one that actually threads into this outer part. And so the KR and the Saber Bay Glass Eyes actually would thread into that, and it does what a lot of people are calling the shine through. So when you turn this on, you'll actually see the blue or whatever color your LED is light through that glass eye. And so what's kind of funny about that is that would actually be a more accurate glass eye for a static prop, but shine through isn't accurate for film. It looks really cool, and you could always do it and put something, you know, put a piece of painter's tape or something, or, you know, some black tape, so that it's going to still be the more accurate part, but it won't shine through. I've got the Graflex shop's red button. This is static, it doesn't work, but it's closer to the correct color. There's some paint you can paint your own, as I've done on the Force Awakens version, and I might make a separate video for that because it's kind of, you know, it's its own thing. But the stock one is an anodized aluminum that just doesn't look right versus this kind of dull, almost purplish maroon color. Both KR Sabers and Sky Wampa both have a flat, or yes, those two and Wanawanga. I think KR is coming out with it. Wanawanga currently has it, and Sky Wampa currently has it. And I'll put links to all these places in the description. I know I'm talking really fast. I see that I'm already at 12 minutes, so I'm trying to not make this a 30-minute video, and just pack it full of as much info as I can. But anyway, they both have what's a flat beer tab. You can see how this one kind of comes up, and that's not accurate. I'm not sure why they did it that way, but the actual vintage tubes, it's flat. So those three places either have or are going to be coming out with one that is flat. So that's something I probably will do down the road, but it's just another thing to buy. So I haven't done that one yet. And then there's normally an Allen screw here. I would recommend replacing it with slotted, or if you find one that it's riveted on the actual flash tube, if you find one of these threaded rivets, I got this through a Facebook group, the Graflex Addicts group, if any of you are already on there or have not heard about it. If you search for Graflex Addicts on Facebook, it should pop up. And it's a great group, lots of resources for making these more accurate. But I got this from a member on there. And finally, I've got the KR Sabers. Not super accurate because it's black with aluminum versus this should be brass. But the plug, which just looks like where the bulb and the flash assembly would clip on. So I did that just because, like I said, this is a static prop, no electronics, but if it did have electronics, it would light up the ring. So that's the A New Hope variant. That's pretty much all the stuff. It's a little more simple than some of the other ones, and a lot of the same mods transfer over to the other ones, so I'm going to only talk about the differences to try to cut down on time. So, moving right along, this is my Empire Strikes Back variant. Right off the bat, I've got the beer tab removed as it is on the actual prop. The hole on the prop was slightly smaller, but the hole is technically accurate to how it was on the film because they just removed that whole assembly. Same Graflex shot red button, same threaded rivet. I've got the Arkham blade plug, so a little more accurate in the sense of having brass, but slightly different. It's called their razor plug, and it almost looks like a shaving razor inside the ring there if it was lit up. So it's not necessarily any more accurate, but it's a really cool plug. Same KR tab screw right there. I've got these sink tabs that I made myself out of some aluminum sheet from Lowe's. And if there's enough interest, I'll make a video just on doing those. But there's several places that are now selling a really thin version. KR sells one. I believe Sky Wampa sells one. And I know there's a couple guys on the Graflex Addicts group that I mentioned that are making them by hand like this. But it's a pretty easy little mod to do. So like I said, if there's enough interest, just leave a comment and I can make a video on how to do those really easily and really cheaply too. So this is the stock clamp. I'm using some 1/2-inch Mylar tape. You can go on Amazon and you can get a huge roll of this stuff, more than you'll ever need. And I just put that there to kind of simulate covering up the Graflex logo. And then that way I didn't have to buy a new clamp. I'm using a slotted screw here, which is closer to accurate on the actual prop versus the Allen screw. The A New Hope variant doesn't have it just because it's the Romans clamp, and it just doesn't quite line up. I'm using the, let me get this, it's really tight. I'm using the Wampa Empire Strikes Back clamp card. There's also Sloth Furnace that makes their version as well. A lot of people say it's a superior version. It's twice as much, so it's kind of your call. Just something to note, I was going to say it at the end of the video, but I'm just going to bring it up now, and I'll probably bring it up again later. My personal opinion with these Graflex 2.0 kits, if you already have one, it's worth doing some of this stuff, but with current newer variants coming out, you know, that might be a better option, because if you add it up, you're going to spend a lot more money making one of these accurate than you are just going with like a Romans. The exception being if you buy a Romans and then you buy, you know, like the Goth 3D / Solos Hold, you know, chassis for it, it might set you back a little more, but you're going to have something that's so much better in quality. Truthfully, these 2.0 kits are kind of crappy for the money. I hate to say it, they're a great option. It's really awesome to the people that set up getting these made. But, you know, I noticed, for example, my Force Awakens was from one of the earlier batches. These two are from the most recent batch, and the quality really has gone down. So I don't think that for the money, a Romans is like $230 versus $200. And the stuff that you add, you know, if you end up replacing everything like I did anyway, I mean, if you end up replacing the clamp card and the buttons and all that, you know, you're spending that money anyway. So just something to make note of. Anyway, moving right along. I've got my, I don't know why there's so much moisture on this. I guess because I keep them near a window. I've got rivets in here instead of the screws. These are just 1/8 rivets, and you can actually remove the center of the rivet and just press these in. You don't have to actually use a rivet gun. If you don't have one, you can just buy some rivets and do it. But it's kind of nice being able to rivet them in. Sky Wampa plate, this is the one that I said comes all the way out. I think it might look a little better. The only reason I used the other one on this A New Hope variant is the pommel didn't actually thread in flush. Again, back to the inconsistencies with some of these variations of the 2.0 kit. This one, it did thread in flush. And then I'm using the Wampa Cobalt D-ring that's riveted in place. I think that the Wampa variant looks a lot better than the one that comes with the kit. The one that comes with the kit is more of a chrome versus almost like a nickel. I don't know how much that's going to show up on camera, but my gripe with it is the Wampa ones, you can tell they use pliers. I don't know if I can get this to focus. right there. You can see plier marks. So that kind of bums me out because that's a really amateur mistake to make. I would have rather just gotten the D-rings separately and been able to do it myself. But it is what it is. So that is my Empire Strikes Back variant. And now, finally, if you're still watching, my Force Awakens version, which was actually the first one that I built. So this is pretty much the same as the Empire Strikes Back. The only difference is I don't have a plate here because this one has an install, so I wanted the sound to actually come through. And because of that, and I think I did this on the other ones, I popped the insides out on all these rivets to just act as more of a sound hole. I'm running the Wampa acrylic clamp card instead of the kind of yellowish one. There's kind of a lot of controversy on which one is film accurate, but this is just another reason why I'm not a fan of running the buttons in here. I actually had done that originally and I just didn't like it. And part of the reason why is this one has a crystal reveal. So in order to get the crystal reveal, you have to open this up, and this can kind of go around and it just changes. With this open, I couldn't get the buttons pressed. This way, I can just press the button right here up on the red button, and you can see all that. That's also how they did it in the movie, and kind of the one big scene where you see them use it is, you know, they use the red button. So that's kind of why I changed it up that way, and I just think it's a little easier to use. Personal preference though. Other than that, it's pretty much the same as the Empire Strikes Back, except for that it has the beer tab, and then it also has the glass eye, but it has the ribbing on the side has been sanded down to brass, and I have a video on how to do that if you have either the stock 2.0 eye or you buy one of the Graflex shop ones and you want to do that. Really, really easy to do if you have a drill. You could do it by hand, but it would be a pain. But if you have a drill, it's super easy to do. But other than that, this is exactly the same as the Empire Strikes Back, you know, minus no tape, different card, a few other little differences, but pretty much the same. And then, like I said, this one actually has an install. But yeah, those are the three kind of main variants. For a while, I had actually done using the A New Hope as a setup. I had done a Revenge of the Sith style, just on, you know, maybe what it would look like if they had used a Graflex instead of made their own prop. And it was cool, it just didn't really feel right. It wasn't, you know, they never used a true Graflex to make that prop. So it is what it is, but it was kind of a fun project to do. But anyway, yeah, these are the three variants. Like I said, with some new versions coming out, it's a great time to be into building Graflex sabers because you have a lot of options. I'm going to try and post links down in the description to some of the stores that I mentioned, and that might help you guys out if you don't want to have to actually go back and listen for it and search for it. But primarily it was Sky Wampa, Wanawanga, KR Sabers, Saber Bay, the Graflex shop is pretty much where most of this stuff came from, aside from a lot of the hardware that I got either at Lowe's or online. Romans, that was another one. Romans is where I got the clamp, and Romans Props has their own variation of the flash tube coming out soon. If you haven't heard, go check it out. Also, the Graflex shop has recently totally revamped their site. They're really up in their game as far as bringing some cool options at a really affordable price. One thing to say about them is their shipping cost sucks. So try and order everything you think you could ever need from them at once, because it's like $7 for shipping. So you'll end up thanking me later if you order a lot of stuff at once. But they've got their own version coming out. I kind of plan on replacing most of these, aside from this one that's installed, but the static props, replacing them with maybe some different variations. So I might, I have a Romans pre-ordered, and I'll probably pick up a Graflex shop variant just so I can talk about it and show you guys. And something else that's really awesome, there's a lot of guys coming out with really cool 3D printed products for the flash tubes. Kind of one of the big dilemmas with these is things like attaching the grips. These have holes in them, so it's really easy to line up the peg, but the flash tubes don't have that. But there's a lot of guys making guides for you know, mounting the T-tracks and things like that. So like I said, it's a great time to be into Graflexes. There's a lot of options. I know I've talked about Graflexes a lot, but that's kind of been my big thing with sabers for a while. So yeah, anyway, like I said, I'm really sorry that this video is so long. I don't know if it would be better to have broken it into 3 parts for each saber, but they all kind of go together. So if you watch the whole thing, then I really appreciate you bearing with me. If you have any questions about any of the mods I've done, let me know. I'll definitely answer them. And like I said, I have a video on how to do the brass on this eye. I can go more detailed into how to do the darkening if people are interested. I can go into more detail about how to make sync tabs if people are interested. Just let me know, and I can make a video on that or answer the question in the comments and help you guys out. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I can keep some more interesting videos coming, and maybe I can change my scenery up. I don't know if this is a great a great viewing, but I've got good lighting in my garage, so despite all the noise, I think it's pretty decent for getting some good lighting on the sabers. So anyway, thanks for watching.